Welcome all. I'm Sarah Bumgardner with AAFMAA, the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association. For over 140 years, we've been serving our military community. And today we're going to talk about a topic about hiring those as they're transitioning from the service, as well as military spouses. We're going to look at what hiring in our military communities and how American Corporate Partners, ACP, is changing how companies actually think about hiring veterans and military spouses. Beyond honored today to have Richard Comitz here, Senior Vice President of ACP, talking with us about this topic. Richard, it's so nice to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. It's really a pleasure and honor.
Great. Well, let's just start and talk about kind of what the current problem service members and veterans are seeing when they have left active duty and they're trying to secure a job outside the military with non-military companies. What are they facing up against?
I think one of the biggest challenges for some people is just figuring out what they want to do, especially if it doesn't translate directly from what they wanted to do, what they were doing in the military to what they want to do in the civilian world, or what they can do in the civilian world. Because oftentimes people think, you know, if I'm an infantryman, I have to maybe go into security or something. And maybe that's not what they want to do. So finding out what they want to do is probably very top of the list. I think we have a figure of like 86% of the people say they're not sure what they want to do. So figuring that out is important. Second to that is then once you do kind of figure out what you want to do is then translating what you did in the military to some language, whether it be in a resume or during your interview, that a military hiring manager can actually understand and see the value that you can bring to the team.
Right. Yeah. And those are really good points, because sometimes those, as you are serving in the military, right, you might have an idea of what you have done. And when you put that on a resume, it doesn't really translate to someone who might not have military experience themselves. Somebody who's hiring, they might not know what that language is. So I know one of the things that ACP is doing, right, is that you kind of have set up a program to be able to guide those veterans as well as military spouses in kind of navigating that. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that mentorship program and what that looks like?
Sure. Yeah. So ACP, what we do is we provide mentors to transitioning service members and active duty spouses. And the mentors come from our corporate partners, or about 80% of them come from our corporate partners. And then we have the other 20% comes from what we call our citizens program, which could be anyone that is not associated with a corporate partner, could be a small business. And then also like niche specialty areas where, you know, they don't usually associate with corporate partners, like it could be real estate or a government servant or something like that. So we try to have a large pool of mentors. So when a transitioning service member comes to us and says, you know, I'm interested in getting into this field, then we have a mentor that we can match them up with. And so when we match them up with that mentor, we ask that they speak about once a month for a year-long period to really form that relationship and go through that process of transitioning. You know, in the beginning, just helping them figure out what the resume needs to look like and how to start selecting jobs, or what, you know, exploring what they might want to do. As I mentioned, if they don't know what they want to do, to help them explore that. Yeah. And then, you know, get through that process where they're actually applying to jobs, maybe getting interviews, practicing interviews with them, maybe helping them negotiate a deal for, you know, different benefits as if they get a job offer. And then also after that, integrating into that new job, you know, maybe a new work-life balance, how to deal with your boss, how to deal with subordinates, you know, how to just work in that industry. So, and then networking is also a big thing. So we really enjoy seeing and hearing the great things that our mentors are doing with our proteges to help them get where they need to be. So that's the program that we work with. And by doing that, we get to really, as we're going to get into, I think, is educate some of our companies as to some hiring practices that are better for military members.
Yeah, that's amazing. Being able to have somebody to talk to bounce ideas off of that that is currently in the corporate world, right, which is very different than the military life and lifestyle, can be tremendous. I was a military spouse for 11 years and went through that transition, and I'm thinking back, gosh, it would have been great to be able to talk to somebody who might have also been a military spouse and is now working in an industry and can say, this is kind of how this operates. And these are some of the things you need to know and to think about. And also to guide that person right into what do you really want to do? What's going to give you kind of fulfillment? What are you good at? And it's always good to bounce those ideas off of. I know one of ACP's kind of new initiatives when kind of learning about this is you're actually talking to companies. You're going in and speaking with companies and changing or trying to help them understand how to change their hiring practices. So we've got all these amazing service members who are transitioning, all these amazing military spouses, and they're having a hard time getting their resumes there. So can you kind of just walk through what that looks like and kind of what you guys pinpointed as a way that companies can change their hiring practices when they look at veterans and military spouses?
Yeah, the word is getting out that the veterans and military spouses are a huge talent pool that is excellent and a little bit untapped, or at least the potential is not there. Now, oftentimes we need a little extra help getting our foot in the door because we don't have a network. We don't have, we might have that difficulty translating our skills in the beginning, but oftentimes we've had our founder, received an email on a weekend from a huge company that said, we've done an analysis. They brought in a new HR director, and they did an analysis on employees, and they found that the military members that are there were the most valuable employees. They didn't complain. They were always at work on time. They had the discipline, and they stayed longer. They were more loyal to the company. So they said, how do we hire more people? And for us, that's get more mentors into our program, because really the mentors are learning just as much as the military members are when they're doing their mentorships. So that helps. And then we also have talked to a lot of companies about, if you're really serious about doing this, then you need to have people that are designated to do that. So in our cases, we say, if you have a mentor that is working with a protege that is a perfect fit for your company, who do they introduce them to? How do they get their foot in the door that way? And the companies that have a designated hiring manager for military people that they can be referred to is one of the ways that we've been talking with people. We recently also had an event in Washington, D.C., where we invited a bunch of our corporate partners to share ideas about best practices for hiring. And it was a huge success. A lot of great information coming out of that, where companies have different things. I mean, there's other things like skill bridge, internships. So having these different pathways for military members to get in the door is been a good transformation. But really, we've been kind of challenging companies with also examining their hiring practices as well, because we have a huge talent pool of, say, a lower enlisted or enlisted people in general that might not have a 4-year degree. But I'll tell you that someone that spent 10 or 20 years in the military, they have some value to bring to the civilian world. And they shouldn't have to go into an entry-level job. And so getting people to look at their hiring practices is another thing that we've been really challenging our companies to do. And a lot of them have been, stepping up to the plate with that, as far as saying, you know what, yeah, there are some jobs we have that are requiring a 4-year degree, and we don't know why.
Right.
And so,
yeah. That's great. And I think that, you kind of hit on a really great comment there, is that sometimes people, when they are asked, they go, well, we don't know why, right? It's just what we've done, right? A lot of times, companies just say, well, we just require a 4-year degree and that's just what we've done. But why? Why have we done that? And so asking that why in ACP, kind of challenging people to say, well, why? Why do you need that for this position? When, like you said, somebody might not hold that 4-year degree, but they've been in the service for 20 years and probably guarantee you that they know what they're doing and have done that to great success. So I think it's tremendous what ACP is doing in not only aligning with the mentorship program and making sure that service members and military spouses are being set up with a mentor to help them navigate through transitioning through service, out of service, but also that you're going right to the core, right? Let's change kind of hiring practices. Let's think about this differently. And it sounds like it's working, right? Organizations are kind of stepping up to the plate and saying, yes, let's have designated military HR personnel that are going to look out for those that we want to hire. And I think too, it's great too. Military spouses sometimes, right? They're at a disadvantage from the standpoint of they might be moving every so often or every 2 years, every 4 years, but they're looking for employment outside of the home. And what a great opportunity. What kind of have you seen in that realm with military spouses about trying to help them secure employment, even though they're moving? What's kind of ACP been looking at in terms of that?
Yeah, well, I'll say that COVID actually kind of helped, I think, in some ways, because it really opened the eyes of a lot of employers that they can use a lot of people remotely and still get a lot of work done. And so there has been a lot more remote opportunities for spouses that are continuing to move from place to place. But we also have a lot of companies that also say, if you are working for us, we will work to find you a job in the next location as well, or allow you to be remote. And that's been super successful. And even for us, ACP recently started hiring some military spouses as well, and that's been a huge success. We now have about a dozen military spouses that are helping us handle the caseload of the mentor and protege relationships, and they've been amazing and really contributing as part of the team, and also at the same time giving back to their own personal community, which has been kind of great. So I think the remote opportunities have made it a little bit better for military spouses, but also having mentors is another big thing. So we have military spouses are increasing in the number of people that are working with us as far as ACP being proteges and getting mentors, because really there are some difficult challenges if you have been holding various jobs or sometimes you can only volunteer because you can't get into a job, or there's licensing challenges. And I know there's organizations that are working on things like licensing challenges, but for us with our mentors, it's really helpful to have someone talk through, well, how do you describe a gap in your resume, and how do you talk about that in the interview so that it's not maybe a detriment, but actually could be thought of as a positive. So that's been helpful as well.
Yeah, that's great. And those are all really, really great points that, military spouses can kind of take as part of, if they're thinking about, well, what do I do? How do I start this process? The ACP mentorship program might be a great way to do that, right? To kind of get your foot in the door, to build confidence if you haven't been in the workplace for a while, just because of the lifestyle that you've been living, being able to talk about that in a positive light. And be able to kind of move forward and progress in your, career development as well, if it's something you're looking for. Well, I just want to kind of wrap up and thank you so much for being here today. I know what ACP is doing for everyone that was able to join, or if you're joining later, to check out and to see, that, if you are a service member and you're thinking about transitioning, if you're a military spouse and you are needing help in getting hired and kind of navigating what that looks like and pinpointing what you can do, you can check out ACP. There is their website. They've got an amazing mentorship program. But more importantly, thank you, Richard, for joining today, but thank you for what you're doing, talking directly to companies. I think that that's, starting at the source, right? Is you've got this great pool of people who are excellent workers. You just need to tap into them. So I really just thank you for what you're doing in those initiatives.
Yeah, well, there's a great community, and we're growing stronger and stronger, and so the word's getting out, and people like you and having us on make that another step closer to getting the word out more. So I appreciate having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Sarah Bumgardner again, and we'll wrap up our AAFMAA LinkedIn Live for today. If you would like more information about AAFMAA or educational resources, of course, you can join our AAFMAA subscription found at the QR code. But if not, we will see you here in a few weeks for our next LinkedIn Live. In the meantime, we here at AAFMAA look forward to our next opportunity to serve you. Bye now.